Wake up, wake up. Larry Krueger, Damon Bruce with you. Happy the day before Halloween, October the 30th, 2024. The Niners on the bye, the trade deadline around the corner. What are they going to do? John Lynch spoke today. A lot to get to. Let's go right now.
Wake up indeed. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, great to have you here. We're brought to you by Sam's Chowder House, best restaurant down in Half Moon Bay, really in the Bay Area. Incredible seafood, incredible views, great place to go if you're visiting from out of town or if you live right here. It is just awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Hit like and subscribe. As Larry said, we got a trade deadline that's around the corner. We got a team on the bye week, just put down a very difficult first 8 weeks of the season. And a little smooth, a little back to normal is exactly what the 49ers needed in the bye week. And Larry, unfortunately, that is going to be unavailable to them as well. We have to begin with the very sad news yesterday that we got about Mooney Ward, his wife, and their daughter, who was born with more problems than most people will have in their long lives. In her short little life, she had a lot of medical problems, and unfortunately, she passed away. And the only thing that you can hope, Larry, is that the 49ers will bring to bear their considerable power and influence for grief counseling and helping the Wards through this incredibly difficult time. You know, you and I are both blessed to be parents, and we're blessed because we have healthy children. Not everybody gets dealt that hand, and the Wards did not get dealt that hand. And what a incredibly sad thing. I mean, I can't even imagine what he and his wife and their family are feeling today. And hopefully the 49ers can help get him and her through this incredibly difficult time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the unthinkable, losing a child. And, you just, you knock on wood and you say, hey, good luck. Cause that's all this life is just a series of good and bad breaks. And we're defined by how we adapt to them, how we respond to the challenges that we have in our lives. But man, that's unbelievable tragedy, unthinkable tragedy. And of course, our hearts and prayers are with Mooney and his wife and his family. Just the unthinkable to lose a child. You spend their entire lives, hey, don't touch this, watch out for that corner. We need to baby proof this, make sure we get the plugs for the outlets, and don't walk behind the car, and all these things. And those are just the basics. And then, then this was a child that was born with special challenges. And, it's just very, very sad. So tragic for sure. And the 49er family will surround him with support, but it's just a difficult time. So our thoughts and prayers go out to them.
Indeed. And there is no smooth transition. Even for better broadcasters than Larry and I could be, there is no smooth transition. So we won't even try one. We'll just offer a prayer. And beyond that, make sure you give someone that you love in your life a phone call today, because you never know when it could be over. So on that note, like you said, Larry, it is right before Halloween. There are excited kids all around the Bay Area. I sent Ozzy to preschool today, dressed as a Paw Patrol character, Marshall, if you're keeping score at home. So he's dressed like a little firefighting Dalmatian. We got Jack going full Batman. I got my chicken outfit ready to go. Larry, will you be involved in trick-or-treating? Will you be giving candy away at the door tomorrow night?
Yeah, I probably will be the candy distributor. Last year, I don't know if because we were so close to COVID still, there were, the COVID did a real number on trick-or-treating. That's for sure.
Sure.
I mean, it definitely was muted. I think a lot of people were like, well, we'll just buy candy and give it to the kids ourselves. And then they don't have to worry about getting those terrible, terrible germs from the neighbors who are touching the candy.
That's why
we lost our freaking minds during that thing. And, and unfortunately, this was one of the holidays that, the kids paid the brunt of the price, of course, for no reason at all. And it's unbelievable, but hope I will be handing out candy. Hopefully we'll have kind of a full return to the trick-or-treating volume, because we had a bunch of kids, like I would say, 20, 30, 40 kids ringing the doorbell pre-COVID, and then really it has been like nothing ever since. So we'll kind of have, hopefully we're bouncing back just over time on that front.
Here's a very good question, by the way, from this. I became deaf destroyer of words. So there we go. Larry, are you or have you ever gone as Freddy Krueger for Halloween?
No.
Yeah, your name shares one of the most iconic Halloween costumes. Were you ever motivated by the Kruegering of movie monsters?
No, I mean it was a movie that came out when I was in high school. I guess maybe junior high or high school. But no, never went as Freddy Krueger. Now you could probably get the exact Freddy Krueger mask and you could just put on one thing. Back in the day, if you wanted to be Freddy Krueger, you would have to like put a lot of face paint. Do I seem like
makeup? Yeah.
A lot of face paint? I don't do a lot of face paint. I don't do face paint for sports. I don't do face paint for parties. I'm not the most spirited Halloween guy. I kind of view it as a kid's holiday.
Yeah.
So I don't dress up, but more power to people who do.
Best thing about the whole Freddy Krueger costume was the glove. I mean, the scissor hands, that was pretty cool.
Well, I just think Halloween is it's a very interesting holiday. One, it's become really, really huge. I mean, there's like Halloween stores that are selling costumes and things like all throughout the year. That was never a thing. Halloween was a 1 week, 2 week kind of a thing. Now it's like literally there's so much devoted to it.
Well, the Bay Area loves costume party.
Bay Area loves costumes, of course, but then also, I always get a kick out of it because, you also have there's all kinds of, people who like the people that seem a little too old to be trick or treating. That's one. Then the other thing, I don't know about your neighborhood, but in our neighborhood, Halloween pre-pandemic had become kind of a pub crawl type thing where everybody's walking around with their thermos of wine. Have you noticed that? It's become like the adults are going to drink as the kids are gaining candy.
When's the last time you've been to a zoo? Just go to the zoo. It is a walking happy hour. Every single parent is drinking at the zoo these days.
That's not good. That cannot be good with wild animals literally a stone's throw away. But the thing that makes me laugh the most about Halloween is work and the people. It's like Lois, who's from accounts payable, is very conservative with her wire brim glasses and her, button with her, her dress and her hair and everything. She's very conservative, but not on Halloween. She shows up at work as the naughty nurse,
right?
And suddenly Lois from accounts payable is kind of a naughty nurse. I do find that kind of funny that, and I loved it in college when the girls would use Halloween as a way to really slut it up. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're showing all kinds of cleavage and we're out here. It's like Halloween is an excuse to just dress like an absolute whore and walk around. I liked it. I think it's a good tradition.
Either way, no matter how much you embrace it, have a good one, have a fun one, and remember,
dress like a slut.
If you're handing out whole candy bars, you are going to dominate the block. If you're handing out whole candy bars,
and there's rules too. I don't know how you feel about this. I do have strong feelings about this. No, I don't care if fruit is healthier than candy. If you hand out fruit, you're an asshole.
Oh, all right. The word.
Stop handing out fruit. Stop handing out granola bars. Shove your granola bar. This is not your time to make America healthy. You know what I mean? There's people that just they take away liberties with no fruit, no veggies, no pre-prepared foods, no brownies that we just made. This is not, this is not urban or suburban or rural Georgia. This is Northern California. If somebody hands you a baked good, there's no way in hell you're letting your kid eat that.
Probably not. That's good advice for everyone, without a doubt, as we get ready for a
No
little
baked
Halloween.
goods.
What my favorite thing to do was on Halloween was you'd get home and you get with your friends and you get in your little circle and you dump your bag out to see who got what, and then you'd start making trades. And Larry, that brings us to the trade deadline, because here it is. It's a little bit of a grab bag for the 49ers. They figured out who they were. They sort of know what their deficiencies are. They know that they're going to get internally just better based on getting healthier and having Christian McCaffrey, who I think holds the key to solving the biggest problem of this football team right there on his keychain. We'll get to all that. But here we are, officially close to the trade deadline. Let's go over some names and ideas that you have had, that I've had, that have been floated out there just on the interwebs, which is, very much alive with possibilities for the 49ers. And let's just start with a big name. Let's just go right to the very top of the list of kale Caesar salads.
No
one's going to like that. No one's going to like that. My wife would like that. She'd be like, "Oh, is it the kale?" Anyway, let's go right to the Cincinnati Bengals, who have Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is an absolute edge superstar who's got a lot of money coming his way in a new contract. Bengals are absolutely going in the wrong direction. Do you think that the 49ers would come for a guy like that, Trey Hendrickson? Myles Garrett. I'm talking real top shelf liquor, the kind of trade where you're involving a first or second rounder to get it done. Do you even think the 49ers are swimming in that end of the pool? Let's start there.
I don't. Lynch went on the radio this morning. He did his regular Friday hit on a Wednesday on KMBR, and he's like, "Hey, we got Jawan Jennings coming back. We've got Jake Moody coming back. We've got Dre Greenlaw coming back. We've got CMC, Talanoa Hufanga. These guys are all expected to be coming back. That's the equivalent of a big trade. So he's kind of, he's doing what Farhan never understood, which is under promise and over deliver, as opposed to over promise and under deliver. You don't talk a big game before the trade deadline. You talk it down like you're not going to do anything, so that if you do something, it's a pleasant surprise to your fan base, not an expectation of, okay, Lynch, did his job or something like that, because it takes two to tango. But of the 8, trades that Lynch and Shanahan have made in and around the deadline to acquire an active player, they've landed a defensive lineman in 4 of the 8 trades. Chase Young, Jordan Willis, Charles Omenihu, Randy Gregory. So my guess is that they will add a defensive lineman, because that's kind of the way they see the world. So Hendrickson would be a great name. Myles Garrett, I don't think is going anywhere. I kind of, I read a story last night about, somebody went through the entire league and like what's realistic, what's unrealistic. And guys like Max Crosby and Cooper Kupp and, Myles Garrett, they're not going anywhere, according to the reports I'm reading. And I think the price tag would be exorbitant, and you just don't see those kinds of trades in the NFL. But for, Azeez Ojulari, Hassan Reddick, Trey Hendrickson, maybe a couple other guys, Arden Key, Trayvon Walker in Jacksonville, Sebastian Joseph Day, a defensive tackle who's already been a 49er. I do think the 49ers will be active, and I think they'll land a defensive lineman or 2. I think they probably could use more than that, to be honest. I think they could use a wide receiver who could run. To me, the biggest needs are the vertical wide receiver and another pass rusher, most likely an outside pass rusher. But if you could get like an Omenihu, somebody who could be inside outside, or an Arden Key back, somebody who could be combination inside outside, that might be what they do. But I do think that if they got kind of burned last year. They went after Gregory and Chase Young, and they got 2 guys that have skills and aren't old, but didn't really fit their culture. And in Young's case, didn't play hard. I think they're going to be a lot more circumspect this year about either getting guys that they know, like a Sebastian Joseph Day, who's not going to cost you hardly anything, right? You probably get him for virtually nothing. Or guys that have known, high revving motors like the guy you just named, Trey Hendrickson. I don't think they're going to take any more chances, Damon, on these. Hey, he's got a big name, but he's kind of washed out in a few spots. Nobody really knows why. Oh, now we know why. He doesn't play hard. They're not going for that anymore.
By the way, I follow this guy from New Orleans who's a big Saints guy, and he takes calls on his show sometimes, and he'll put up the highlights from callers who are he's just got some of the greatest callers in the world. And he's like, how the hell do you name a guy Chase Young? The guy doesn't chase anything. He doesn't run hard enough to be called Chase. Just knock it off. We got to give him a new name. Screw Chase Young. So
I called him Jog Young a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Jog Young, because he's not a chaser. He's a jogger.
Yeah, he's really not that much in a hurry to change or affect the outcome of this game. Let me give you a couple of names. This is what I saw just perusing the interwebs this morning. Let's start with Carolina's Jadeveon Clowney. And the theory was Jadeveon Clowney could probably be had for a 5th rounder. He's a guy who's got 16 pressures on the year. He's 1 sack on the year. Now he's in a terrible situation in Carolina where you can shift and double team him all day long. And you're not bringing him in to play opposite of Nick Bosa. You're bringing him in as a rotational piece. Would you be interested in trying to pump the last gallon of oil out of Jadeveon Clowney for a 5th rounder?
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the Chase Young move all over again. A guy who's moved around to a bunch of teams. He's had some good play, some good snaps. He's had some disappointing snaps. He's been everything.
He's an old 31. There's a lot of tread on those tires.
He's an interesting guy because at times he's played amazing football.
Right. He can have an electric game and then disappear.
And he single-handedly beat the Niners a couple times. He beat the Niners one time with Seattle. I remember him, going right by Joe Staley in a high-profile game. He's had some big games against the Niners, but he's another guy. It's big name, big rep. And I don't know how hard he plays. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good move or not. I haven't studied him and how much he's played. I mean, he's a veteran off the edge. There's that. There's no, that makes him interesting.
I think what makes him gettable too is that Carolina's just full on fire sale right now. Again, they're open for business. So that makes him look at it this way. It's worth talking about. I guarantee you that John Lynch has thought about Jadeveon Clowney or will before this trade deadline comes about. Now, if he actually pulls the trigger, we do not know. The guy that I think is just,
here's the thing. What are they going to trade, Damon? That's the other question is what do the Niners have to trade? I get the feeling that their 2nd, 3rd round pick is going to be kind of like what they're, that's like what they're using as their arsenal. I think that they have those 2/3, and if they could move, they would move that 1/3. But here's the thing: you saw the D-Hop trade; he went for a 5th. You saw the Deontay Johnson trade; he went for a late round pick swap. So the price tag is, this is a buyer's market, in a lot of ways as far as the prices are concerned. If you have a 3rd round pick to offer, I think you could probably get more than Jadeveon Clowney. You know what I mean? You might be able to get Jadeveon Clowney and Miles Sanders, or Jadeveon Clowney and Jonathan Mingo, or you know what I'm saying? They might be. I mean, I think the Panthers came out and said they're not going to move J.C. Horn, their 2021 1st round pick, their corner, but they have Clowney. They have, as I said, they have Miles Sanders. They have Mingo. They've got some extra tight ends on this team. So, Tommy Tremble would be a very attractive player. So there's the Carolina might be an interesting trade partner.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Jacksonville too. They could be too.
3rd round draft pick is high society, man. I mean, a 2nd rounder, 1st rounder. Now you're talking about Broadway penthouses being traded. So 3rd round is probably the highest price point the Niners are going to go, given the situation they're going to be in with Brock Purdy and all this stuff. And by the way, real quick, someone's like, I'm glad Damon's not the GM. Did you hear me say, are you listening to the show that we're actually hosting? Are you watching the show?
We're just throwing names around right now.
We are talking about possibilities. I did not say trade for Jadeveon Clowney. We're talking about who might be out there, who is available. And here's another name.
Here's one guy, Joe Schmo, by the way, says Drake Jackson's going to play this season. I just saw Drake in the press box. He will not be playing, Joe, this season. He's a next season guy, Joe.
You know what Drake Jackson is, Larry? He's a no season guy. He ain't gonna make it.
I think he, don't quit on him just yet. You got to remember Friday on the on Niners Nightly, I've got Jesse Sapolu on. Jesse Sapolu lost 2 full seasons to injuries before he ever played, and then went on and had an incredible career. So I hear what you're saying. It's been tough slog so far for Drake, but don't quit on him yet. I think he still has one more go around before he's.
Well, I mean, I'd love to be wrong. He's a player that I've wanted to see pop, and he just he just has not for several different reasons.
Yeah.
Again, a team that's got to be open for business. What would it take to pry Calais Campbell out of Miami? Again, this guy is a perfect rotational player for the 49ers. I think you can get him for a 7th rounder, a pick swap, conditional, very late in the draft type of trade, and he's a guy that can be rotated in, to the Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, D tackle, merry-go-round that Chris Kasurek wants to put in there. He's not looking for starter snaps. He's looking for I can help snaps, and I just think he fits. Calais Campbell is a name that I would pursue if I were the Niners.
An interesting name. I mean, he's played seemingly forever, and he's scheme versatile. Most people like Calais Campbell as what we call a 5 technique in a 3-4. So he's kind of thought to be like the jumbo defensive end in a 3-4. In a lot of ways, he's very similar to Eric Armstead. Really tall, but really, really strong at the point of attack against the run, so you can play him inside, but also, athletic enough, long arms, quick enough that you can, in a pinch, play him as a defensive end. The Niners go wide 9. So in the wide 9, I think he's probably more of an interior guy all the time, but he could help. There's no question about it. And, they also have, Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert and Jalen Wright and Jeff Wilson. So they got a bunch of backs, and the Niners could definitely, if they wanted to use another one of their running backs, a Jeff Wilson or a Raheem Mostert could help as well. Some people would think, well, no, you don't want that now. It blocks Garendo, so maybe not. But, the Dolphins do have a back. They could be a team. The only thing about the Dolphins is they appear to be getting off the canvas, and I don't know what their plan is the second half of the year. The team, I'll tell you, one team I'd be really looking at, Damon, is Jacksonville. Why? Because Jacksonville. Trent Baalke, give me a good old Trent Baalke over there. I'd give Trent Baalke a call. I think they're going to move Travis Etienne, the running back. I don't know that he's a fit for the Niners, but they do have a bunch of interesting players that could really fit the 49ers. Walker Little, their offensive tackle, is kind of a swing tackle. Now he's starting at left tackle because of injuries in Jacksonville, but he would be a nice addition. Trayvon Walker hasn't been as good as Aiden Hutchinson, but he's still plenty good. And I think you could get Trayvon Walker for a 3rd round pick, even though he was the first pick in the draft just in 2022. They also have Devin Lloyd, Andre Sisco, the safety, Darnell Savage, the nickelback. I think, Jacksonville's very interesting. I mean, I would give Jacksonville a 3rd round pick in an instant if I could add Trayvon Walker and Darnell Savage.
I'd want Savage, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, both those players for a 3rd rounder.
Right. Exactly. I mean, which might not be a bad deal. Trayvon Walker, is 6'5", 270, and really, really athletic. It hasn't happened for him in Jacksonville. But guess what? Laken Tomlinson didn't work out in Detroit. Niners gave a 5th round pick for him. They got a couple of really good years, and then he, rode it to riches in free agency. So, just because Marshawn Lynch wasn't very good in Buffalo to start his career and then went to Seattle and became beast mode. So it just sometimes these 1st round draft choices, it just doesn't work out and they need to move. They need to move on.
There are some guys I think you hold the situation against them, and then there are other guys that you want to give the benefit of the doubt. If you think that he's a benefit of the doubt guy, I mean, he got drafted into a highly dysfunctional Jacksonville team that was, coming out of Urban Meyer, just getting into Doug Peterson, believing that, they had the next Joe Montana and Trevor Lawrence, and they're kind of getting hit with the pie in the face that isn't the truth and might not be the truth. And they just extended him massively. The GM's about to go. The owner's upset with everyone involved. So, yeah, getting out of that weird situation could bring out a much better player than we've seen in a much different situation. The situation around the New York Giants has changed so much, and Azeez Ojulari has been so highlighted with the Kayvon Thibodeau injury that maybe the New York Giants are thinking, like, we can't give this guy up for anything. This year might not be going in our direction, but this guy's better than we thought, and he has been on a tear lately, generating 6 sacks on the year, 5 over the past 3 games, got a 14% pressure rate. The 24-year-old would pair very well opposite of Nick Bosa and keep Floyd fresh for a stretch run. I think that came from our friends over at Niners Nation. And we've talked about Azeez Ojulari and, a possible 2-for-1 there with the New York Giants. I wonder if they're not looking at him differently. He might have been the guy that could have been traded. And then he plays like this. Do you still want to trade that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why you would want to trade him. I mean, it was only 2021 that you took this guy in the second round. He's just now starting to play his best football. And I'm sure they're not they're not dying to trade him, but he is a free agent at the end of the year. So, and the way Daniel Jones is playing, it's pretty obvious they don't have their quarterback of the future on the team. So, and you're paying Jones. So they're in a weird situation because they don't seem like they're going anywhere this year, and maybe they could get some draft capital for a guy that's going to walk away in free agency anyway. But that's an interesting name. They also have a couple other guys that would be of interest to the 49ers. I mean, definitely Darius Slayton, who's a big receiver who runs in the 4.3s. Jalen Hyatt, the former college star at Tennessee, is a 6 feet, 185-pound wide receiver who's got great vertical speed and can get down the field. It just hasn't happened for him with the New York Giants for whatever reason. Jalen Hyatt might be the kind of receiver that the 49ers could use. He kind of fits what they need. In my opinion, they need more of a speed element to that. If they had a receiver, they need somebody who can really run to go with what they have. So a guy like Jalen Hyatt runs really well. He hasn't really done it yet. Maybe you could get Azeez Ojulari and Jalen Hyatt for a 3rd-round pick. I don't know. Maybe you could get more than that. But I think the Giants are an interesting team to watch for sure at the deadline.
By the way, Uncle Salty, I think, is on a point here that I was going to get to. DJ Jones isn't going anywhere. The Broncos have kind of screwed that up. They've overachieved, and they're not going to start trading away defensive pieces as they're trying to convince their rookie quarterback, like, yeah, we got the future, and it's happening right now. So I think that DJ Jones is off the rails.
I don't think they need him. I mean, completely honest, full disclosure, Evan Anderson gives the 49ers exactly what DJ would give the 49ers. He's strong at the point. He's got better pass rush than you think. He's a little bit, he's immovable in the run game, enormously strong. They like Evan Anderson. So I think I got to be honest. I think of that's the one spot I've heard a lot of speculation about, defensive tackles. And yet, what do the Niners have? They got Malik Collins, who's doing a really nice job rushing the passer. You've got Jordan Elliott, who I think is playing pretty good football. I like what I've seen out of Jordan Elliott. Givens has got a groin strain, but he was their leading sack guy for a while. Pretty good pass rusher. Kalia Davis looks pretty good as a pass rusher. And now you got Evan Anderson as a run stuffer. They're using Sam O on pass rushing downs, inside at tackle from time to time. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like what they have. I mean, I wouldn't mind DJ Jones, but when you look at what it's going to cost to pay him and what it's going to cost to trade for him and all the other needs you have, and you have Anderson sitting there, I think I'd go try to add in a different area.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Niners evaluate themselves, like through the prism of this trade deadline and what they look at. And, forget about what they're saying. What do they do? And what they do, I think will tell us what they, believe is the biggest weakness on this team. To me, though, The 49ers are already getting a player added after the trade deadline, which almost makes me want to sit out the trade deadline, at least from an offensive standpoint. Because I was really looking at all this, and we're trying to boil down the Niners, and what does the entire season boil down to? It's never one thing, but if it had to be just one thing, what is it? It's just right now, their point production does not match their offensive output. Full stop. That's the biggest problem on the year. It's not slowing, aging wide receivers. It's not that Garendo might be a fullback. It's not what's going on in the secondary. It's not the amount of pressures that aren't of turning into actual sacks. It's really not what they're doing against the run. Now, obviously, when you're struggling offensively, the better defensive effort you get, the easier everything gets. So, I'm Mr. Defense wins championships. But right now, this offense is so much better than people are giving it credit for, Larry. I mean, seriously, I'm looking at some notes in the chat, and this offensive line is trash. I'm not here to tell you it's the best in football, but if you're evaluating this offensive line as trash, you don't even know what trash is. Like, you can't identify anything. Are they perfect? Are they state of the art? No, they're not, but they're better than they were last year, and last year was still good enough to get them to the Super Bowl. And let me tell you what the 49ers offense is right now. There are two teams in the NFL producing over 400 yards of offense every single game this year, and the Niners are one of them. It's them and the Baltimore Ravens. This team moves the football with greater ease than all but one team in the NFL. Full stop. You can't, again, I'm not interested in your feelings about anything. Statistics say they move the football better than any team not named Baltimore Ravens. They've got the fourth highest passing attack by yardage. They got the fourth best yards on the ground. You're not a top 5 team in either category if your offensive line is a trash can emoji. It's just not, it's not who they are. Their defense, as many headaches as you've gotten from their defense, still the 10th best in football in terms of yardage, and there's like 5 teams in front of them in terms of yardage who have played one fewer games. So for everyone who's wanting to say that this is just a bad year and they're a bad team and they're going nowhere fast, like, I disagree with that. And I really think that they're going to get the one guy who is more qualified to solve your red zone problems than any other person in the world, in Christian McCaffrey. And I don't know what Christian McCaffrey is going to be. Christian McCaffrey 3.0, 2.0, whatever version of McCaffrey we're about to get. But if he is half is what they had last year, Larry, that's a player that could absolutely put them over the top. Watch wide receivers start to separate a little bit better when linebackers and safeties got to keep their eyes on Christian McCaffrey. Watch that right there create a little separation.
But I mean, okay, but he's got 2 Achilles. I mean, there is no bigger injury in sports than Achilles.
But
so I don't think you can count on him. I mean, I don't think you can rely on him. I don't think you can. So you're going to put your entire season in a guy who's got 2 Achilles, and it's like, if you're not going to do anything because you're just going to bank that some guy who, you've no idea. He might last one game. He might last one half of one game. I mean, to me, that's risky.
With the contract extension they gave him, they have put their eggs in the Christian McCaffrey basket. It's not about what I want.
Yeah, but there's 2 ways to do that. You don't have, just because you're paying a guy a contract doesn't mean that you have to give your entire. They're not going to. It's not going to be an acceptable excuse. Injuries are not going to be an acceptable excuse. So it's. You can sit there and say, well, we're going to get Christian back, but you don't know that. You have no idea. I would say that to me, that's not the healthy approach. The healthy approach is don't bank on Christian coming back, pretend that he's not coming back. And then if he comes back, then you're pleasantly surprised. Do not lean on him and don't put, I mean, have we not learned our lesson? They put everything on him last year and it didn't work out. They rode him too hard. They got to the finals and he was shot and he fumbled. And, it was like they didn't use their depth. To me, I would pretend he's not even on the team and go about it like, go find another guy. Go find somebody else who can do it.
I don't want to see Christian McCaffrey really in between the 30s. I'm not asking for him to have 25 to 35 touches a game anymore. That guy's probably gone. That ship has sailed. What I need are 15 touches inside the red zone. I need him to be the red zone back for this team. And hopefully that won't put a workload on him that does further damage to either Achilles. The man has had 8 weeks of resting in rehab. And the minute you tell me, like, hey, he's ramping up, he's ready to go again, that means the player plays. And if he gets hurt, look, there was never a scenario where, depending on Christian McCaffrey, didn't have but he could be hurt at the end of this attached to it. That's what it is for everybody. If the player's playing and healthy enough to play, I'm going to assume that he's good enough and healthy enough to be out there, and he should remind me at worst of the player he used to be. I think this is an incredibly accomplished, valuable player that, if he's just 50% of what he used to be, is still better than 100% of just about a lot of other guys. And I think he's the biggest game changer in the room. And if you're telling me that he's not helping enough to change the room, well, then the Niners will probably come in, with 9 or 10 wins and maybe just be a playoff team, and then probably not hang around that conversation very long.
I'm just saying, don't, you've got a car that's got major problems. Don't plan on taking it cross country, Plan on driving it on Saturday. If you really want to keep that car and it's got all kinds of problems, you put it in your garage and you drive it on Sundays. That's the way people drive a car that doesn't have good wheels and, but they have some emotional attachment to. That's how the Niners ought to treat Christian McCaffrey.
Well, they play on Sundays.
Use him as a use him sparingly, and then don't bank on him. And go get somebody else, make sure that you're covered. Don't put it all on him. And look at it this way, if he surprises you, great. But even if he surprises you, even if he comes out and plays against Tampa, ramps it up this week, plays against Tampa, he's still, in my mind, always going to be one twinge away from he's done.
Every player
don't bank on him.
They're all like that.
Yeah, but not like that.
Lives in that universe every single day of his life.
Yeah,
all
but not
players are like that.
Not like this.
Well, here's the deal. If Christian McCaffrey has to die playing football for the 49ers, dies of 2 Achilles injuries on the field, then so be it. Like, that's the deal. Like, he is their best player. So if he says, Coach, I'm healthy, I'm ready, you go out and you ask him to do things that you ask your best football player to do. And
that's fine, but you don't bank on him. You don't put the whole season on a guy with 2. I mean, come on, it's not smart. You don't put your entire season on a guy with 2 Achilles. You help him rehab. You want him to rehab. You let him rehab.
That's where you are.
Encourage him to come back, but you also, you can't put. You got too much riding on the season. You can't put everything on this guy getting healthy. I just think that's too tall of an ask. If you want to be one of the solutions, fine. But to me, it's not coincidental that they're ramping him up this week. They're ramping him up this week because they want to find out if he's going to be able to withstand the rigors. And if he can't, I would say we'll see how it goes this week. And even then, it's no guarantee. But I if I were them, there's backs all over the place. Go get one.
I'm not saying you bank on the guy. I'm just saying you play him and hope for the best. And I think the best of Christian McCaffrey is the player who solves the Niners' problems in the red zone. So however many plays that means in any game, how with the usage, I really don't give a shit. They need Christian McCaffrey. Playing carefully with their toy is really not like a choice that they get to make anymore. This is it. This is the 49ers have, how many games they got left? 9?
9. Yep.
Got 9 football games left. All right. You need to win 7 of them. Seriously. So I don't like it. We're all out of excuses. We're all out of wiggle room. All the mulligans,
I disagree with that too.
All the W's that you needed to bank in the first half of the year, you didn't do it. So now it's all hands on deck time. And I don't care who's hurt, who's feeling bad, who's not ready to go, who's tapping out. It's go time. You get 1 bye week. Get this guy healthy. And if he can help you, great. I really think he's going to help the team. I think he's going to be a massive difference maker. And if he isn't, then the season will not be very good.
I don't think it's going to take 11 wins to go to the playoffs, by the way, not in the NFC West. I think they could get there with 9 wins. So I totally disagree with that. They need 7 wins. They don't need 7 wins. They need 9 wins probably to get to the playoffs in this division. That'd be my assessment of it.
Well, we're not too far away. 7 and 9 are not tremendously different numbers.
That's a big difference.
It is, but look,
I mean, you only have, you're talking about 2 more wins. Just outrun the Cardinals, outrun the Rams, outrun the Seahawks. Those games head to head are going to mean a lot.
Yep.
But go get yourself another back, because get yourself covered. Make sure you're covered. They run the ball. I mean, they run the ball well with a number of different backs, but don't confuse that with any back can run in this system. That's not true. They've done a really good job at getting good backs who can fit their system. But when you run out of backs, you run out of bullets in your gun. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think McCaffrey's going to come back and do anything big this year. You're going to miss all this time. The fact that he's missing all this time means that he's seriously hurt, and seriously hurt means he's probably not going to be very good this year. So we'll see. I don't bank on him doing much. In fact, I think it's probably 50-50 whether he gets hurt on the way to getting back. Because, that's the thing. That's what happened last time. When they tried to ramp him up this summer, he had a setback. And hopefully he won't. But I would say if you're a betting man, you probably would say that he will. And I think it's very likely that they're ramping him up right now.
Did the 49ers send a
because
doctor
they know
house to look at him before they agreed to this contract extension?
I don't know. But I mean, they know that if they ramp him up this week and it doesn't work out, they still have, 48 to 72 hours to get something done. I think they're ramping him up so they figure out, what can this guy give us? And if he can't give us anything, we're going to have to go get somebody. The good news is there's a lot of guys out there.
What I think they're going to have to do is play Isaac Guerrero. I mean, that's the thing. Guerrero, I think, has now in the last couple of weeks shown you enough to where you want to further invest in that.
I mean, I disagree. I not that I disagree that he's got some talent, but I mean, he's not an every down back. So he's a complimentary piece.
That's it. But your every down back is Jordan Mason.
Yeah. If he's healthy. I mean, there's another guy who's, got AC joint sprains and looks like he's pretty hurt. So we'll have to see. I mean, I just think they could use one more back. They run the ball a lot. They want to run the ball a lot. And, I just think that they could probably, I mean, the nice thing about it is there's a lot of backs out there. So they could find a running back pretty easily. But, the trade deadline is Tuesday. So if you're going to get somebody, you're probably going to have to trade for somebody the next couple days. And we'll see. We'll see if Guerrero has got explosive capability. No question about it. And Mason is, I think, a really nice young running back. But what they don't have is a running back that they can hand it to inside the 5 that will score touchdowns. Guerrero's running into the backs of his offensive linemen, falling down. He's really raw. Mason doesn't have that. He kind of dances at the line. He doesn't have that hit the hole thing. So
here's the thing.
You got to be able to score inside the 5.
They do have that guy, and he's the best in the league at it. And hopefully he's healthy enough to contribute in the second half. And if he is, I think this plane rights itself and stabilizes and starts flying right and picking up wins. Like, I think the Niners could go on a little bit of a roll with Christian McCaffrey appearing as a goal line back who is turning field goals into touchdowns. Right now, ESPN had a defining stat of the first half. The 49ers at the 57.1 goal to go efficiency, which is 29th in the NFL. The consistent inability to cash in for touchdowns when inside the opponent's 10-yard line has popped up repeatedly in both wins and losses. It hurt the most in disappointing defeats against the Rams and the Cardinals, 2 games the 49ers believe they should have won handedly. Again, if Christian McCaffrey can produce 6 touchdowns inside the red zone that otherwise this team would have been settling for field goals, That could be the difference in the entire year right there. And that's a big number. That's a big number.
I mean, okay, but once again, we're ignoring the fact that this defense has not consistently rushed the passer. This defense has not consistently stopped the run. This special teams unit might be the worst in the entire league.
And that's the problem.
And you've had a huge rash of injuries. And you're thin at defensive tackle. You're thin at safety. You're thin at wide receiver. You're using your third kicker. I mean, it's we'll see. We'll see. It's Jennings' hip injury, very serious. Moody's right ankle, very serious. Greenlaw's Achilles. He's probably not back until December. It's already almost November. There were people saying mid-season for Greenlaw, which would be right now, but that's not happening. And Hufanga, is going to play with a cast, they think, at some point. So, I mean, they're getting some guys back, but I don't know what those guys are going to be able to contribute, to be honest. I don't know what Greenlaw is going to be. I don't know what Hufanga is going to look like with a cast. I don't even know if Hufanga's better than Mustafa and Brown.
You might not be.
Jennings, I don't know what Jennings must be seriously hurt.
The defense, for all it lacks and doesn't quite dominate the way that it used to, they're giving up 22.8 points per game. That's not bad. I mean, really, that's not bad. That's a number that you can win with more often than not. There are 15 teams in the league who give up more points per game than that, and all of the other teams in the NFC West are among those 15 teams. The Niners still are the best team in their own division.
Yeah,
for sure.
Which is why this whole must-win stuff gets crazy. All you have to really do to get into the playoffs is outrun the Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals. But the fact of the matter is the Niners have been so up and down that they blew big leads against the Rams and Cardinals and now have given themselves no margin for error in the final 9 games.
Everyone's on the lead lap. Everyone in this division is on the lead lap for the division. So no one's quite fallen off yet. So it's look, the Niners it's been more frustrating than it's been bad. And I think a lot of people have taken their own frustrations and morphed that into this is a bad team having a bad season. I actually think this is a pretty good team having an underachieving season. And
who has said they're a bad team? I mean, tell me that. Riddle me that. Who has said they're a bad team? They're only they've been favored, Damon, in like every single game in like the last 50 games.
Right.
Every single game, every game. So show me the really bad team that's been favored in 50 straight games.
Well, I'm just telling you, fans see what they want to see, right? I mean, fans are all up in arms, and maybe that's because they're living in the wrong information silos where poorly intended journalists are trying to sell them their opinions more than what's really going on. I think what's really going on with the 49ers is they're a pretty good team who's been banged up way too much, has had like 3 or 4 things not go their way in 1 or 2 too many football games, and they're at the bye week with a huge chance to reset and come out, I think, a different football team than the team that went into the bye week. Now, I'm counting on Christian McCaffrey showing up and being a contributor, Juwan Jennings getting better, Dre Greenlaw eventually returning, Talanoa Hufanga, the improvement of Garendo, Ricky Pearsall continuing to show that he's ready to help. I mean, if all of that continues to happen, then a guy like Cowing gets involved, like George Kittle's having one of the best years of his career. There's still an awful lot of hope for me, and I'm not the fan. Here's the thing: I just cover the team, and if I can see this, I'm surprised more actual card-carrying 49er fans aren't a touch more hopeful for a better second half than the first half.
Well, I think they're hopeful, but I mean, you just listed about like 7 ifs, and you know what? Ifs, don't win games. I mean, ifs are issues, and there's no guarantee you're going to have, you're going to need solutions to all of those.
I'm only working with the information they've given us. You know what I mean?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you're wondering why people are not, incredibly enthusiastic. It's because this Super Bowl contender's 4-4. They've shown huge inconsistencies in all three phases of the game. They have major injuries, and the guys that are coming back, we don't know what they're coming back as. I don't know what CMC is going to look like, or Greenlaw, or Jennings, or Hufanga, or Moody. You know what I mean? So, there's just a lot of ifs. There's a lot of ifs. So, we'll see. We'll see. They're, they're the best team in their division. They typically play better in the second half than the first half. But you know what? I think John Lynch is playing it down because he doesn't want to add more pressure to his own plate and add more pressure to his own job and add more expectations to the fans who already have expectations. But don't run from it. John Lynch has this season in the palm of his hands, and what he does at the trade deadline, I think is, I don't give a shit about all these guys coming back. You had those guys anyway. It's about, can you improve your football team? You have huge weaknesses, and the weaknesses are real. And some of them will be improved if you get Greenlaw back. But you know what? That's asking a lot. I mean, that's asking a lot. Maybe the smarter move would be to get another running back and another linebacker so that CMC and Greenlaw, two of your pillars of your team, can heal at their own rate and not according to your need. Just because the Niners need Greenlaw doesn't mean that his torn left Achilles is healing in time. Just because the Niners need CMC doesn't mean that his double Achilles tendonitis is ready for him to play. So, you can't force it. You can't force these injuries. So you assess them and then you try to restock. But I personally think John Lynch is going to need to make a move or two. This team is not as good as the other teams. They just played Kansas City. They're not as good as Kansas City. They played Minnesota. They didn't beat Minnesota. They've got Green Bay looming. They've got Buffalo looming, both those on the road. They're going to lose those games most likely. They're not this dominating team. So, yeah, I think he does need to add something to this mix. I just think he needs to improve. It doesn't have to be at running back. It doesn't have to be at linebacker. But, I think they need to improve. I mean, I think they need to go out in the trade market and get better. He's popularized the trade, and it's worked for the most part. I mean, if you look at the guys that they've acquired, they've helped them win, and they need to do it again.
Well, let's see what they do, because here it is. You talk about there are all these ifs. I think they've got some internal solutions to those ifs. If you're telling me you can count on none of them, pretend they don't even exist, well, then go get a new stack of ifs and do it here at the trade deadline, and we'll see if they work out in the second half. I do know that if you go to Sam's Chowder House, you're going to have one of the best lunches or dinners you're going to have in a really, really long time. If you go to Sam's Chowder House, you're going to see that, oh my gosh, it's on one of the most beautiful plots of land in Northern California. And I get to sit here and sit on this patio. I get to watch the ocean. I get to watch the boats and the tides come in. I get to eat this lobster roll. I get to talk about this paella right here. And there it is, the Cioppino. And you're going to need some of that too. So if you are looking for an awesome getaway, a great lunch spot, a little special occasion spot, Sam's can be all things. So get down to Sam's Chowder House, and thanks again to them for supporting Wake Up by being our only sponsor. Thank you so much, Sam's.
Yeah, no, Sam's is an incredible spot. Get some seafood, sit there and watch the waves break. It's hard to beat. It's very hard to beat. Someone said I'm not being positive about the Niners. It's not my job to be positive. It's my job to be accurate. And I'm not I don't have to sit there and, be like, oh, you know what? I hope for this and I hope for that. I mean, obviously we're all hoping, but hope's not a plan. Hope is just that, hope. I think they actually need to go out and do something. Now, it's okay for the general manager to downplay their needs. You don't want to you don't want to increase people's level of expectation on what you're going to do. That's why Sabian all those years was like, hey, the cavalry's not coming. But they need help. They need help. And to me, they've got $54 million of cap room and it's earmarked for Brock Purdy, but they need to use a little bit of that cap room and add to their mix this year, because they're not as good. In some ways, they're better than we thought because their rookie class has given them a huge shot in the arm. But in a lot of ways, they're worse, and they need to be a little bit better. I mean, to me, like right now, if I was a betting man, I'd bet Green Bay. I like Green Bay to get out of the NFC more than I like the Niners. But if the Niners could add to their mix, maybe they could overtake them, or if somehow they get Christian McCaffrey back and he's Christian of old and he's totally healthy, that's probably going to be enough as well to lift them up. But that's asking a lot. From what I'm hearing, that's going to be asking a lot.
We'll see what happens. Deadline is coming quickly. The final look back at the Dallas game. Larry, some huge numbers and everything that NBC wanted out of Sunday Night Football, they got from 49ers and Cowboys. 26.4 million. It's the most watched Week 8 Sunday Night Football game on record. So can't do better than no one's ever watched more Sunday Night Football on Week 8 than this Sunday Night Football game. So it just speaks to how big the Niners and Cowboys are. I saw this from Dave Lombardi talking about how good of a third quarter Brock Purdy had in that game. And I think that the fourth quarter was so stressful due to how much Dallas climbed back into that game that a lot of people glossed over how good Brock was there for a little bit. Listen to some of these numbers that Brock put up in the third quarter. The Niners outscored Dallas 21-0 in that third quarter. They outgained the Cowboys 167 yards to 16. Time of possession was 12 minutes to 3 minutes. Purdy was a perfect 7 for 7 for 103 yards. He led the Niners with 37 rushing yards in the frame as well. And according to Opta Stats, he's the only quarterback since 2000 to deliver over 100 passing yards, over 30 rushing yards, and over 100% completion percentage in any quarter. Again, first since 2000. There have been 26,276 quarters of football since 2000. And Brock Purdy just had one of the all-time great quarters, like right in front of us. And we were so busy worrying about the defense and the Cowboys. I don't know if a lot of people really saw it or appreciated it. As a matter of fact, I couldn't help but notice there were Brock Purdy trash can emojis. Maybe we should just ban the trash can emoji from 49er fandom because they don't seem to use it very accurately.
Well, there's just a lot of people that are just waiting, waiting for Brock to fail so they can be like, see, I told you. It's really sad, too. There's some people who are like, I predicted he was going to be great, but then they spend the rest of, their time throwing out stats that tell you that he's not good. He's a very good NFL quarterback. Is he the best? No. But he's closer to the best than he is to the worst. That's for sure. And his mobility is unbelievable. When you watched the game like on the rewatch, it was what really screams out is Brock Purdy's running. I mean, he's definitely could have better arm strength. He definitely could make some better decisions from time to time. He definitely takes chances with the ball and sometimes too many chances. I had this last night on Niners Nightly. I was talking about the key to the second half. And to me, the key to the second half is Brock Purdy. And to me, it's like, there's no doubt he's the key to the second half. Listen to this. This is pretty amazing when you think about it. Brock Purdy this year, the Niners are 4-0 this year when they win the turnover battle. They're 0-4 when they don't, right? But the Niners this year with Purdy specifically, 3-0 when Brock has no turnovers by himself. And in his career, the Niners record when Purdy has no turnovers, 15-0.
It doesn't mean
undefeated.
It's him specifically.
If Brock it's not about the team. It's like if Brock fumbles or Brock throws an interception. So if Brock just takes care of the football, 3-0 this year, 15-0 career. So just take care of the football. I one of the compliments I threw to him last year, I said, your dial of risk reward is absolutely set on the perfect speed in that you don't you protect the ball but you drive the ball down the field. You're looking to take chances and you'll put the ball in harm's way, but you don't turn it over. Well, when you live on the margins like that, your margin for error is not that great. And you take away Ayuk and CMC, and now this week Jennings, and suddenly there's more pressure on Brock to make plays by himself. But if he just takes the check down, just takes what the defense gives you, just, is a little bit more careful with the football, I think they've got enough to be pretty good if they can get a little help on defense. I think they need a little help on defense. But, and obviously special teams is coming off their best special teams game of the year. They were good against Dallas. But that's what they need.
I mean, here's the thing. This is how low the bar is for special teams. They weren't even good against Dallas. They just didn't screw up massively like that.
I thought they were good against Dallas. Dallas was number one. Dallas was number one special teams in the league. So I was expecting Kevontae Turpin to burn them, and he didn't. So good for them. I mean, if you look at them, I mean, you mentioned Lombardi. Lombardi's got his midterm DVOA rankings that he put out there today. The Niners are 7th on offense, 6th on defense, and 29th on special teams. So
you know what? That seems about right, doesn't it?
It seems. I don't know. Right? I mean, it seems pretty glaring, is what it seems like to me.
You didn't even know what DVOA was, and I just walked up to you and said, they're in a top 10 in offensive and defensive DVOA, but they're near dead last in special teams. You'd be like, okay, that's my own eyes are telling me that too. So that's about right.
And the defensive, if you break it down, defensive DVOA splits, the Niners are number 2 against the pass. They're number 19 against the run. So, I mean, they need to be better against the run. There's no question. Their offensive splits, they're 6th passing offense, 12th run offense without CMC. So, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're not nearly as bad as some people's feelings would indicate. They're not nearly as bad when you measure them against the rest of the assembled NFL. Where the Niners definitely are lacking is when you measure them against the fond memories of a few of the teams that you just rooted for. They're not as good as past 49er teams who were all proven to not be good enough to win the Super Bowl, but those past 49er teams were pretty damn good. This team isn't as good as those old teams. They just aren't. But maybe it's out there in the second half with the right tweak of the defense, with the right guy to come and help you through your red zone struggles other than George Kittle. Maybe things indeed get better. Larry, it's officially the bye week when this story pops up. I saw the first Niner mock draft. We're way too far away from next year or thinking about it to really do this, but Kyle Madsen, who we both like on Niner Wire, brought it up and said a new mock from Pro Football Focus as the 49ers taking the offensive line selection that they didn't go after a year ago with the 17th overall pick, offensive tackle Cameron Williams out of the University of Texas. So already talking 49ers addressing offensive line next year, first round. What say you, Larry Krueger?
Well, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, give it time. I have looked at some mock drafts, and I have looked at some of I watch tons and tons of college football, and I've got some favorites already. Just give you a few of them. I love Kenneth Grant, the big defensive tackle from Michigan. I love the safety from Texas, Andrew Makuba, big-time hitter. I love the Stanford tight end who transferred to Georgia, Benjamin Urasek. I think he's fantastic. And there's a few others. But, yeah, I mean, Anthony Belton is one of my favorite tackles. Miles Hinton, who's Chris Hinton's son, who started at Stanford and transferred to Michigan. He's one of my favorite day 2, day 3 offensive linemen. There's a linebacker that I love from Louisiana named KJ Osai or KC Osai. There's a safety from Ole Miss I love named Yam Banks. Isn't that a great name? Yam.
You got to like Yam.
Yam Banks. Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of there's a D lineman from NC State named Davin Van, who I'm super fired up about. There's some
All right, no one's
really,
jotting
really
these
good
names
late
down,
running
Larry.
backs, Ulysses Bentley and Marcus Yarns, a couple guys that I really like. And I love Landon Jackson, the edge rusher from Arkansas. He's a
Oh
tremendous
yeah,
player.
Landon Jackson from Arkansas. Absolutely.
Landon Jackson, you got to check out Landon Jackson from Arkansas. Pretty good edge rusher, kind of like a JJ Watt or a TJ Watt. He's just a freaking menace off the edge. But yeah, there's the draft is just around the corner, and we'll cover it. I'll be all over it throughout the springtime. And this is the time of year where I'm just gathering, right? I'm just gathering. Hey, I like this guy, I like that guy, and I try to do it organically. I don't sit there. I just try to watch the games, and if I notice somebody that I really like, I'll look them up, look at their highlights and that kind of thing, see where they're at. I'm always kind of keeping an eye on it. So I've already started my draft prep, and
Tanner Mordecai could come from anywhere. Everybody, he could come from anywhere.
Well, one of my favorite guys right now is a defensive tackle from Ole Miss named Walter Nolan. You guys go check out Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Game-wrecking inside defensive tackle.
Okay. In all your years as talent evaluator, whether looking at a kid coming out of college or evaluating what a player was doing in the NFL, of all your days going to your son's high school football games, in all your days playing sports or football or just watching television, have you ever, Larry, seen a professional quarterback just say, I got to go to the sideline, I need a little bit of rest? Because that's what happened, and it's been talked about quite a bit. Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts, the 4th overall pick, a 22-year-old physical specimen who was drafted because of the extraordinary athlete he is, tapped out of a game and went over and literally said, Coach, I'm tired. You got to take me out for a couple of plays, and put in a man who is old enough to be my father, who, by the way, who's now taken over at my job because he's better at it than I am. Joe Flacco is now your starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts because Anthony Richardson, who is having one of the most struggling with the concept of completion percentage starts to his career, went on like a 9-play drive and just decided he could not play anymore. Your entire life, you'll never see that happen. It never has happened before. It probably never will happen again. What the hell was that?
Well, I mean, first of all, Anthony Richardson barely played quarterback at Florida. I mean, he barely played. Now he's 6'3", 240 with 4.4 speed. And he's an incredible athlete. But it's like a running back playing quarterback. He's really, really raw. He's had 8 starts. As a runner, he was injured 3 times on designed runs in 8 starts, and has fumbled 9 times. And as a passer, he's completing 44% of his passes. Since come on. I mean, they're running him tons. I mean, first of all, it's hard to pick quarterbacks. And by the way, the Colts are now they opened as a 7-point underdog against the Vikings with Anthony Richardson. Now that they're gone to Flacco, it's Colts -5. So that's like
how are the Jets giving the Houston Texans points this week?
I know, that's wild. I don't get that at all. And I've got this new rule that when I see a spread that makes no sense, instead of trying to beat it, I go with it. But I mean, I can't go with that. I can't go with the Jets against the Texans. The Jets are a tire fire. But yeah, I mean, Anthony Richardson is, and it's like there's an article out right now that's talks about how there's just, I mean, if you think about it, the NFL is so badly in need of a developmental league. I mean, Anthony Richardson is 22. Trey Lance is 24. Bryce Young is 23. These guys have all busted. Josh Fields is 25. Zach Wilson's 25. These guys all have sucked. So where do you go to develop? Mac Jones is 25. Kenny Pickett's 26.
Hopefully NIL provides
where do these guys develop? They need a minor league system
of money to stay in college and develop there. I mean, that's the thing. Major college football is where football players were developed. So now there's, financial incentive, I think, for some of these guys. I mean, especially like Anthony Richardson probably could have made more money staying at Florida another year than he made his rookie year in the NFL.
I mean, with the NIL?
Yes.
I don't know about that, but you know what? He needs to develop. And it's like all these young quarterbacks, you have nowhere to develop. You got to play to develop. You've got to play to get better. You can't just sit and get better. You have to play at some point if you're going to get better. That was the whole thing with Trey Lance. It's like Trey Lance needs to play, and there's nowhere for him to play. And don't tell me college football. College football's been there. College football's interest is not in developmental. It's in winning. They're not looking to develop anybody. And they're the spread that is prevalent throughout college football makes it so there's an adjustment ramp up period. If you go to the NFL, it's just really hard. I mean, it's like the NFL badly needs a minor league system. They really do. And it's crazy because while that's going on, they also have all these failed kind of secondary football leagues because nobody wants to buy into a secondary football league. And it's like, it's just so obvious what they need. It's like they need somebody to partner with them and use their branding and have a secondary league and use it as a minor league system and develop coaches and officials and rules and everything. This return rule, this should have been perfect for their minor league system. Instead, we're dabbling with it at the NFL level. Don't go get a minor league system.
And what they need to do is really admit, like, okay, so we're developing a minor league system and we're doing it for our own good. It really isn't, to be sold to fans, although, tickets are for sale. It really isn't to be broadcast on television, but of course, there will be, it'll be broadcast on TV. But it's not about having success here, financial success here. It's about developing players to make the big product that much better. But everything like the XFL could be perfect for this. But the XFL isn't trying to become a minor league system. It's not trying to feed into the NFL. It's trying to compete with the NFL. And that's where you're going to lose. When you have these other football operations pop up, and they try to, sell that illusion of, well, we're winning. We're playing winning football over here too. And this is the best. And we're the best of this league and all that stuff. You're not serving a developmental master anymore.
Well, I mean, like right now, like, it's like saying, hey, man, I've got a great idea. I'm going to sell chicken sandwiches and I'm going to beat Chick-fil-A. No, you're not. All right. No, you're not. You're not going to beat Chick-fil-A. You'd be better off, getting Chick-fil-A to start some kind of Chick-fil-A 2, and then you just kind of, capitalize on their marketing. And then now you're in the chicken business. See what I'm saying? It's like what the 49ers or the NFL, they need a developmental league, but nobody's going to, and yet their people are incredibly passionate about NFL football, but they're not going to go watch the, whatever, San Francisco, whatever's Mountain Lions or whatever. They're not going to do it. But there are so many people that are so tied to the NFL brand. I'm always amazed at the anthem. I look down at the stadium and I'm like, dude, look at how many people are wearing jerseys. There are so many people wearing jerseys, way, way, way more jerseys in the stands in 2024 than you ever saw in the 80s when they won the Super Bowls. you would see jerseys, but not like you see now. Now it's like jerseys are everywhere.
Everyone in the
Everybody's got
row
a
is
jersey.
wearing a 49er jersey, not just that one guy in the row, the whole row.
Everybody's wearing a jersey. So the branding is really, really popular. The merchandising is really, really popular. People are tied into the brand. So why create a new brand? Just go, if you put the 49ers you can't play football year round. If you could, the 49ers would outdraw the Warriors in the spring. They'd outdraw the Giants in the spring. Why? Because the NFL's king. So if you're going to have a secondary league in the spring, just wrap it around the NFL, naming and the team names, and people will watch it. If you put on, hey, the 49er spring team is playing the Raiders spring team on, May 19th or something, more people are going to watch that than are going to watch the Giants or the Warriors at that point.
Support it like a JV team. You'd support it. You would.
You would support it just for the hope that someday those developmental players, and a couple of them would graduate to the roster, and some of them would be great, and we would be living with that. Hey, that's the way they sell the Senior Bowl. Have you noticed the Senior Bowl? They don't say, come watch this all-star guy from North Carolina, come watch this all-star guy from Penn State. They're like, Russell Wilson played in this game. Patrick Mahomes played in this game. And Josh Allen played in this game.
Stars of tomorrow play today.
The stars of tomorrow. And then when you bill it like that, people will watch. And I really think that it's not just going to be successful. I think it's going to be wildly successful. And we're going to look back and go, why did they not do this 20 years ago? Why did they screw around with so many of these NFL Europe, the American brand of the CFL, multiple USFLs, multiple arena leagues? I mean, it's like, come on, use your own branding and have your own minor league system. And if you don't want to own all of it, don't own all of it. But lend your names and your monikers to these teams, and I think it's automatically going to be a winner.
I agree. By the way, this is an automatic winner here from Steve-O, who does, I think, have the right idea to compete directly against Chick-fil-A. He says, I open on Sundays next to Chick-fil-A, and I call it Side Chick. That's great, Steve-O. Side Chick would be the perfect chicken sandwich spot on a Sunday.
Something tells me that there would be some people out in front protesting that. I don't know.
Well, there's people out in front of protesting Chick-fil-A, I think, anyway, so might as well get a chicken sandwich while you're done with that protest.
There's people protesting everywhere. Last time you asked me, I think earlier in the show, have I been to the zoo? I think last time I was at the zoo, there were people protesting the treatment of the elephants or something like that. I don't know. People have all kinds of issues.
Yeah, zoos are not good for the animals in them. I mean, I think that's provable.
Really?
Yeah, kind of. Sometimes
they don't seem like they're having fun.
The
at least not at the Oakland Zoo.
Imagine I give you two choices: this 12 by 12 pen or the Serengeti. What would you rather have as an animal?
Well, I know, but here's the thing. There's this predator-prey game that exists in real life that you're not, so every animal's got another animal that eats it and destroys it. Something tells me they don't let the tigers in with the elephants at the zoo, but they do in the Serengeti.
You're going to want to mix them up and see how they act together. You'll find some of them get along great. Others, not so much.
Right.
On that note, let's go to the supers, Larry. Let's see who's getting along and making good points today. Super chats, what do we got?
Joseph Ernberg, somehow get DeAndre Swift out of Chicago.
Yeah, the Bears are not going to be sellers here. Bears don't want to turn around and give you pieces of their team that they're trying to improve. So that's not going to happen.
Bears are coming. That's going to be a very tough game. Fuji Simeon says, terrible news about Mooney Ward's daughter. Oh, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. Mr. Funny says, $20. He says, I agree. Use CMC in the red zone. We seem to move the ball between the 30s pretty well. Also, any concern about having two young players as safeties in the playoffs? I think they should put Amos out there. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm advocating Darnell Savage, because I think you want to go with your youth, but you also want to have maybe one more veteran out there. Amos could help, but Amos was picked off the street. I think Savage would be quite a bit better. Interestingly enough, Amos played with Savage in Green Bay. So wouldn't that be interesting if they were reunited here in the city with the Niners? Fuji Simeon says, first Young, now Richardson benched. Wild results for second-year quarterbacks, Young, Levis, and Richardson compared to C.J. Stroud. Thoughts on the benching of Richardson? Is Dobbs a trade asset still? I do believe Dobbs is a trade asset. I think there's teams that would probably want him. I'll also be very interested to see, do the 49ers try to gain leverage against Brock Purdy by picking up a young quarterback that's better than what they have, a Mac Jones or a Zach Wilson or somebody with some, and a lot of people would say, no, why would you ever do that? Well, that would just upset Purdy. Here's the thing. I don't really give a shit about Purdy's feelings. And at the end of the day, Joe Montana played the best with Steve Young looking over his shoulder. Steve Young played the best with Joe Montana looking over his shoulder. I'm a believer in capitalism. I'm a believer that competition solves almost everything. And I think Brock Purdy, if you had a guy sitting behind Brock Purdy that could take his job, damn right he'd play better. It's just human nature. So, yeah, I mean, if you decide that you want a better backup than Brandon Allen and you can get Mac Jones for nothing, and who knows? Mac Jones was good at Alabama. Supposedly the Niners liked him. He had a good rookie year, and then he was crap once the Patriots started putting Matt Patricia as the OC and having no weapons, right? Look, I don't think Mac Jones is terrible. I think Mac Jones is okay. What do you think?
Competition is always good. You want a really good second quarterback because you could be playing that guy as your starting quarterback in the blink of anyone's eye. So, yes, I'm not worried about the objects in the rearview mirror creeping out Brock Purdy. What I take from this Fuji Simeon super chat, though, is look at those names. Young, Levis, Richardson. Do you realize how often teams will take a quarterback that everyone in the moment they select him, oh, he's the future, he's going to be, and it turns out they're nothing. They're nothing at all. So can we appreciate Brock Purdy for the stability that he has brought to a position that even when you draft to find stability in it, you still might not find it? Like this guy, Brock Purdy, has been the sun in the center of the 49ers galaxy. I mean, he is lighting and heating the earth for everyone right now. I don't know if Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch are still in their positions. If not for Brock Purdy, that's how big of a mistake they made on Trey Lance. So
that's how hard it is. It's hard to pick quarterbacks. It's hard to pick quarterbacks.
Yep.
Like look at this year. This year in the first round, there were 6 quarterbacks that went in the first round. Caleb with the Bears, Daniels with the Commanders, May to the Pats. Michael Penix went to the Falcons. He's yet to play. J.J. McCarthy went to the Vikings. He got hurt. Bo Nix went to Denver. So what do you got? You got Caleb playing well. Daniels playing well. Nix playing pretty well. And May's not playing particularly well. McCarthy's hurt, and Penix is yet to play. But I went and looked at the last 6 drafts the other day. Going back to so Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, right? And he was in the 2017 draft. But I was thinking to myself, what if there seemed like there's an awful lot of bust quarterbacks. So I wanted to look at it. In the last 6 drafts, there were 21 quarterbacks. That's 22, 23, 21, 20, 19, and 18. There were 21 quarterbacks selected in the first round. The way I look at it, you have 4 stars. C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. 4 stars. Okay, so 19% of the 21 are stars. 33% have become solid starters. Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jordan
Trevor
Love,
Lawrence.
Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and I threw Tua in there. So that's 7. That's 33%. The biggest percentage, though, is the next group, and those are busts. 48% busts, and that would include Josh Rosen, the late Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young. So, I mean, bottom line is, 10 busts, 7 solid starters, 4 stars in the last 21 first-round quarterbacks since the Mahomes draft. This year I didn't even include because it's just too early to look at it. But I mean, that just tells you that, the NFL is badly in need of a minor league system because Lance and Richardson and Young and Fields and Jones and Pickett and, Zach Wilson and all these guys are bad right now, but 1 or 2 of those guys will find themselves before it's all said and done. And I just don't know which one it's going to be. And if they had a minor league system, they could keep developing and playing. Instead, you're going to have to do what Sam Darnold did, which is he's going to have to take less, go to a winning team, kind of learn from a good quarterback and a good OC like he did here, and then go to Minnesota and make it happen. I mean, Baker Mayfield has saved his career. Sam Darnold has literally saved his career. And I bet you one of these other guys that I named as busts also will, in time, save their career.
How about, by the way, speaking of new spots and saving careers, what's going on with Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson's playing good football. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you had $100 bill sitting around and you wanted to make some sort of a goofy bet that could pay off pretty well for you, right now, Steelers, what are they, like plus 2,800 to win the Super Bowl? Putting $100 on that's not the worst idea you could have. That's a defense that could win a Super Bowl. And if Russell Wilson plays well, he has won Super Bowls. So shit. What's going on with the Steelers all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, I watched them a couple weeks ago in a game, and I was like, and I think I tweeted out that day, Justin Fields is not good, and Justin Fields is not good. Justin Fields is a great athlete, but he's not good. He ran 4.4 flat, but he gets sacked all the time. He's got unbelievable accuracy, and yet he misses wide open guys and can't throw with anticipation. So he's not good, and he's really, really raw. But the Steelers have a killer D. They got a really good young O-line. They can run the ball. They're good enough on special teams, but I mean, they've got a big time defense. And now you put Russell Wilson just, in a system where they have a good line and they can run the ball. Russell Wilson is quite a bit better than Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that, that Fields started as much as he did early. But yeah, you put Russell on with that defense and they're a Super Bowl contender. So shows you. And by the way, look how bad Miami became as soon as you took Tua out of the mix for their backup quarterbacks. I mean, it's amazing. Quarterback means everything in the NFL. If you have a great one, you're great. If you have a good one, you're good. If you have a mediocre one, you're mediocre. If you have a bad one, you're bad. If you don't have a quarterback, you have nothing, and you're the Raiders.
What is so odd, though, about the Russell, I'm not talking about the position in general, is that he went from got it done to now can't quite get it done to traded to Denver to almost incapable of selling one on the concept that he could ever get it done again. And then in a small handful of starts, looks like Russell Wilson from Seattle with the Steelers. It's weird. And it just shows.
I think he'd be here. If it wasn't for Brock Purdy, he'd be here.
He probably would be.
He probably would be because he would have been the best quarterback available.
But sports progression and regression, it's not linear. Guys can go up, go down, go up, go down, and situations change and fortunes changed. And, trying to write the script on what anyone's going to be after a small look at a couple of football games is just ridiculous. No league changes faster than this league.
Yeah, and also you get into a stretch where you're playing great ball. You get into a stretch where you're playing bad ball. Brock Purdy's timing on when to, take chances and protecting the ball and his whole dial of aggressiveness versus protect the football was set perfectly. And then this year, you take away CMC, and all of a sudden, he's trying to do a little bit too much, and he's running a little bit too much, and he's taking a few too many chances, and suddenly he's turning it over too much, and now you're losing games. So, I mean, nobody stays the same. But I never really bought into the Russell Wilson stinks narrative. I just felt like his equation was bogging down. Denver wasn't right for him. I don't know. It's just I never really bought into it. I saw him beat the Niners too much, and it was too legitimate to really sit there and be like, the emperor has no clothes. I just never bought that with Russell. I just felt like he needed to get to a good spot. The Steelers are a great organization. I mean, look what Sam Darnold did with the Niners, and look where he is now. Look what Russell Wilson's doing with Pittsburgh. So you kind of makes you wonder, are all these quarterbacks that, is Richardson and Lance and Bryce Young and Zach Wilson and Fields, are these guys all bad quarterbacks, or are they in bad situations? Are they good quarterbacks in bad situations? Are they bad quarterbacks? And you literally have to go right down the list. Like, I really believe that Mac Jones is probably a pretty good quarterback. If you put Mac Jones in the Niners system, I think Mac Jones would be a good quarterback. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, styles dictate success in this league. And, you don't know what a quarterback's going to be, but we know who the good teams and the well-run teams and the well-owned teams and the well-coached teams and the ones that aren't are. And it's amazing how often it's amazing how the Jets keep it on the Jets, right? It's amazing how the Browns keep it on the Browns. For a league that is literally built to strip teams of success and reward teams for failure, there are some teams that just can never get out of their own way no matter what. No matter who's coaching, no matter who's drafted, no matter who the GM is, it's just historically bad at it. It's a bad situation. And yeah, you take a player you think might be decent out of a bad situation, put him in another one, you could get a totally different player for sure. It's just the league moves really, really fast. This show's got to start moving faster, Larry. Let's get to the end of these supers, because I do got to move.
Fuji Simeon says, do the Niners make small trade moves or a huge move? I think they make multiple small moves. I don't think they're going to, the most I think the Niners will trade is their 2025 third round pick. Now, I think they can get significant piece for that, but they're like, I would advocate trading my number one for Garrett Wilson. I don't think they're going to do that, and I don't think they're going to do any of these big name defenders either. I think it's going to be smaller moves on the margins. Dale says
a sixth for Mike Williams.
I don't like Mike Williams. He's too slow.
Yeah,
he's just too slow. Dale says facts don't lose to Cards and Rams. Facts don't lose to Cards and Rams. This we are bad isn't even a discussion, not to mention all the Brock sucks verbiage lately. Bosa is disappointing in my humble opinion. I'm not sure if I'm getting the essence.
Okay, so facts do lose to the Cardinals and Rams. Okay, no, that's the thing. There's the Vikings just lost to the Rams. The 5-1 Vikings. When I just said, I think that was me saying the facts show that the Niners aren't as bad as some people are thinking. And he's like, well, facts shouldn't have lost to the Cardinals and Rams. No. The Niners are better than the Rams team that beat them. Sometimes you lose to a lesser opponent, and it happens more often in football than it does in other sports.
Yeah. The old any given Sunday thing. I mean, it's as simple as that. Fuji Simeon says, Larry Damon, what was your most memorable costume? When I was really young, I was so excited by the candy. I was Casper the Ghost, and I had that kind of rubberized costume with the mask. And I think I was sweating and, I think I yacked in my Casper the Ghost costume, or after Casper the Ghost trick-or-treating one night. But it was a great costume. I loved it. But yeah, it was, as a little kid, I was very excited about the Casper costume.
I had a last-minute invite to a college Halloween party. I had absolutely nothing. But what I did do was take a pair of black sweats and a black sweatshirt. I pulled a few Maxim magazines and Playboys, and I put a whole bunch of gorgeous naked women. I stapled them all over my body, and I was a chick magnet.
Jesus, that's so bad. Um,
It was great in
Probably the
college.
best one I ever
It
had
was the
as far
90s,
as
Larry. You were allowed to have fun in
I
college.
know.
You were
I
allowed to be a heterosexual male in
I
the
know, but
90s. It was
that's so
great.
controversial. My favorite one in college was, and me and my roommates did this. We went down to the Cal trans workers, and we got those orange vests and the white hard hats, and we
Okay.
were Cal trans workers because you could wear jeans and a t-shirt and then just put on the vest and the hat, and all of a sudden, hey, look, I got a costume. Was never much for face painting. We got this one from Nathan McFadden. Draft skill players faster than molasses, please. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Well, everything's faster than molasses. That just shouldn't be hard to do.
And by the way, you're stealing from me. That's my line. Fuji Simeon, fantasy question. If the NFL expansion occurs, what cities would you think would get a team? St. Louis, San Diego, Portland, Salt Lake City, other cities? I would think St. Louis would be a prime one, right? Because they had the Rams, they don't have the Rams. I would say Nashville's got the Titans now, so that market's covered. San Diego has no interest at all. Portland, I would say no. Salt Lake City, I could see that.
Salt Lake City is an exploding sports town. I would definitely say Salt Lake City would be a candidate. There's
probably some other town that we're not thinking of that just is exploding because of industry?
Well, and I just feel like there's got to be some, like, how is there not an NFL team in Mississippi? How is there not an NFL team in Arkansas? How is there only one NFL team in Georgia where they're bonkers about football? Now you can say, well, because college football still matters, and yeah, it does.
On Sunday, yeah. But
sure.
I mean, yeah, why not? Seriously, yeah. Well, there should be Birmingham, Alabama. I think would be a perfect location.
Yeah,
that's a major city in Atlanta in Alabama, and they love their football. As Damon said,
Oklahoma City,
possibly. Yeah, I mean, definitely the college football hotbeds. Let's just say this. There's an awful lot of people who are probably not Titans fans because there's not a lot of teams around them. I mean, there really aren't. Greg Arjazy says, great line from Rocky. Take her to the zoo.
Take her to the zoo, Rock.
Take her to the zoo.
You don't want the other half of that line.
Heather Taylor, hopeful for historical post-buy flipped of script. Things have been dire before, and the ship has been righted. If moves are made for reinforcements, when should we see them? I would say probably in the next few days. I would say probably, could be today. Could be today, literally. There's a lot of trades going down.
Trade deadline is Tuesday next week.
Tuesday.
There you go.
At 1:00.
So
Fuji,
go ahead, participate in democracy, vote, and hope that the 49ers vote on the right trade that changes your season around.
There you go. Fuji Simeon says, LOL, 12 by 12 exhibit with all meals and healthcare provided to the animals, or the wild open Serengeti. Lombardi says Serengeti has cell reception now. Good to know.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of cell service in Africa that there wasn't before. I got a buddy of mine who does that actually over there. So
really.
Yeah.
Joseph Ernberg, if we take Purdy out, any quarterback would do better, though. Yeah, right.
Yeah, just any quarterback.
Any quarterback. Fuji Simeon, come on, Yankees, shock the world and come back. Yeah, they're 3-1. They came back.
Yeah, that ain't happening. It feels like the Dodgers 100% waved the white flag on that game last night, and they're going to come back and see the Yankees.
LA can really score. Fuji Simeon, chick magnet back in the 90s, present day Title IX violation.
Oh, totally. I would be ostracized.
Oh my God. Your picture would be all over the internet. Fuji Simeon, Larry, church is on Sunday. Okay. Well, church and football. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to, once again, check out Sam's Chatterhouse.
Thanks to Sam's. Look at that. Get Fuji Simeon in there. Yeah, don't ever have anyone over graphicing the Sam's spot. Look at that. That, by the way, the roll. I know it's all about the lobster, but the roll's got to be perfect too. And those New England style rolls on the lobster roll, it's just perfect. Any good sandwich the bread to the bread to beef ratio, the bread, the bun to burger ratio matters. Even on a lobster roll, you can have too much lobster in a lobster roll. It's got to all fit, and they just do it perfect down there. So, go get to Sam's.
You want a couple pieces of lobster to kind of fall off the side.
Yes, and then you eat those with the chips, and that's why you want the chips, and then the drawn butter and the chips dunking in the butter.
Now, what do you put on it? Do you go butter or do you go cocktail sauce?
Oh no, just the butter, the drawn butter. I wouldn't want any ketchup on my lobster.
Though if you go to a crab feed, do you go butter or do you go
crab?
sauce?
No, that's butter too. That's butter too. The only time I would like a little cocktail sauce is with like shrimp cocktail.
I do like a little cocktail sauce if it's got a nice what's it called that makes it spicy? The horseradish.
Well,
the most give me some cocktail sauce with some horseradish. That's I one time did that, Damon. I forgot. My wife, we were doing some kind of prawns with as an appetizer. She's like, make sure you get some cocktail sauce. So I go to Lenardi's and I'm getting cocktail sauce. I don't realize that I'm getting cocktail sauce that is got like a heavy dose. It's an extra. What is it again? Horseradish.
Just extra horseradish. So you're singeing nose hairs off at your party.
I mean, it was fire. I mean, it was absolutely on fire. Every like swipe of cocktail sauce that day, I heard people being like, "Whoo!"
So, St. Elmo's,
man,
St. Elmo's in Indianapolis, Larry. It is a famous restaurant in Indianapolis. It is, you shouldn't do a lot of seafood in landlocked states, but the shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's is famous for its level of horseradish in its cocktail that you'd think was based on a dare. I mean, it's almost inedible, but then you keep on going back to do it again because there's something great about being tortured by horseradish. It's why we like sushi. It's the wasabi is Japanese horseradish, basically, and people go back for that burn. So proceed carefully. You never know.
This guy, Google is Skynet says cocktail sauce and crab is like putting ketchup on steak.
I agree with that. Yeah. See,
I don't know. At a crab feed, I like to mix it up. This guy says Larry describing his sex life, prawn appetizer. Christopher Shin, how dare you attack the sanctity of my union? All right, that's going to do it for us.
Thank you very much for watching.
Larry, sometimes you got to hop into Miata. You got to get a nice cocktail. You get shrimp cocktail, crab cocktail. You get it all down at Sam's. You get in there. There's a lot of vegan options, and the minestrone is very good too.
You can talk about this and you can talk about that. I prefer just a good old beer. I'm Trent Baalke. I'm a football guy, and I drink beer.